State, presented by Progressive. This is the ACC on ESPN tonight from Durham, North Carolina. Cameron Indoor Stadium, number 9 Duke taking on Wake Forest, a pair of 20-win teams and double-digit wins in the ACC. The head coach of the Blue Devils in his 42nd season, Mike Krzyzewski, just 3 more walks onto this court, this place that he has turned into a cathedral of champions. Coming out in his final season, the Blue Devils taking on a Wake Forest team tonight that has been in the thick of the fight. Blue Devils lead the ACC at an 11-3 record. They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over Notre Dame. But Wake Forest is sitting there with a big turnaround season, but coming off a loss to Miami over the weekend. Reese Davis alongside the newly announced Hall of Famer, Debbie Antonelli. Nobody more deserving. Congratulations on that. Wake Forest has had a, maybe not a Hall of Fame worthy turnaround, but quite one. They've got a terrific offense, best shooting team in the ACC. But this Blue Devil run of winning 7 of 8 has been keyed by defense. Yeah, the Blue Devils have the best defense. When you look at field goal percentage defense, you look at three-point defensive, and also the top shot blocking team in the ACC. When you look at the ball screen defense in the middle of the floor, Mark Williams does a great job of drop coverage. Look at A.J. Griffin on the strong side, staying home, not overhelping, allowing Mark Williams to handle that situation. Now watch this play right here. These defensive disciplined hands are high. You see that Mark Williams stays attached, and then watch Wendell Moore drops to tag the roller. Good ball pressure. The ball goes inside. It's a contested 2-point shot. Duke rebounds again. Their defensive rebounding margin is solid, and they are a very good defensive team when they stay connected. And that defense will be put to the test by Alondas Williams, a transfer from Oklahoma who leads the ACC in scoring and assists since they started tracking assists in 1973. No one has ever done that. And the sensational freshman for the Blue Devils, Paolo Banchero. He's done a lot of things right for Duke this season. One thing they would like to see him do is maybe at times be a little more aggressive with his shot, be shot ready. Had a big game in the first meeting against Wake Forest, a 12-point victory in Winston-Salem for the Blue Devils. They really took control late in the first half of that game and pulled away. Our officials tonight, John Gaffney, Doug Sermons, and Jeff Hartness. Ball is in the air, and the Blue Devils will start Trevor Keels getting the start tonight. He missed 3 games with a leg injury and had come off the bench in the 5 games he had played since that lower leg injury. Banchero is aggressive initially, gets a shot, and Duke the offensive board. Here's Keels, front of the rim, and it's rebounded by big Dallas Walton. Wake Forest, its starting 5 is a new look for Demon Deacon fans, at least from the beginning of the season. Only Isaiah Musius started his career as a Demon Deacon. The rest are transfers. O'Davian Williamson in his 2nd year there, and all of these transfers have blended beautifully, including Williams that we mentioned, and Jake LaRavia, number 0 that you'll see shortly, and the big man who can shoot it from 3, Dallas Walton, shown good range in recent games, Debbie. That was a very mature possession by a mature offensive team that leads the league in field goal percentage at 49%. The Duke starting 5, 4 who've been starting. Keels, as we mentioned, back in the starting lineup tonight. Here's Wendell Moore Jr. all the way to the bucket, and it won't go. Williams has his first rebound. Williams has a triple-double this season. Isaiah Musius for 3, and that is way long. LaRavia gives him a second chance. Davian Williamson, no good. You have to make a decision against Duke. Do you go to the offensive glass, or do you try to get back? Early on, Steve Forbes' team wants to set their transition defense and get back and get organized on this end of the floor to try to contain Duke. And Steve, in his 2nd year at Wake Forest, Debbie, telling us today that he doesn't want to go against that set Duke defenses all the time tonight. A steady diet of that will not be good for the Demon Deacons. Good look from Banchero to A.J. Griffin, and a chance for a 3-point play. A.J. Griffin doing a great job moving on the weak side, getting into the vision of Banchero. This unselfish pass right here. It's a nice play by Griffin to plow through the contact and get to the line. Well, Griffin had 22 in the first meeting against Wake Forest. He and Banchero leading the way offensively. Paolo with 24 and 5 rebounds in that first game. That's what Forbes said. They couldn't guard those two guys, and they carried the Blue Devils in the three-point play. This is tied and early going.
Duke does not give up much in transition, and they're so good at getting back and getting connected. And when you have a shot blocker on the defensive end like Mark Williams, who leads the league in block shots, it allows you to really pressure out your defense and push Wake Forest further away from the bucket.
Walton couldn't hit his second three of the night. Here comes Keels. That's the thing, Williams meeting his match in terms of size, and Walton in there.
And they should be able to play that matchup straight up if you're Wake Forest. It's hard to help off of anyone because they're such good three-point shooters.
Of course, then again, Mark Williams has become such a force. Handling him one-on-one is tough. He has his first basket of the night. If he had enough field goal attempts, he'd lead the nation in field goal percentage, shooting about 72% for the season.
Well, he's got 61 dunks of his 112 made baskets, so he's playing at a very high percentage in the paint.
Good shot selection, they call it down.
Yes, it is.
There is Walton, gets Banchero in the air. Dallas Walton, the transfer from Colorado, has all 5 Wake Forest points.
What an impressive start for Walton, showing his ability in the middle third to knock down a triple or to get in the paint with 2 feet and score.
And Debbie, he's a guy who's battled injuries in his career at Colorado, but he's averaging career high in scoring, rebounds, minutes, and blocks. Really played well for Forbes. Shot clock inside 5, no problem at all. Or more.
I mean, that's just good defense. Duke gets 3 sides. They get a 2-dribble pull-up jump shot at the elbow. It's beautiful. They're going to have to make some tough twos in this game. Both these teams are capable of locking down, but they also have playmakers. And you know, Reese, I love offense, so I'm always favoring the offense in that matchup.
There's an offensive guy, and that is something Forbes wants him to do more. Jake LaRavia, his first bucket of the night. Wake makes about 8.5 threes per game. Get a lot of good looks and shots from inside the arc as well. Wake Forest has a 1-point lead. Steve Forbes wanted a solid start. So far, he's gotten it. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance. Visit progressive.com. And in part, by Ticket Smarter, a smarter way to buy tickets to live events.
Welcome back to Duke, and now let's take a look at who is made of more, brought to you by Guinness. Well, Alondas Williams, a.k.a. Man, is on track to be the ACC's first player to lead the conference in points and assists since 1973. He averaged just 6 a game at Oklahoma, and he's now scoring 20 this season. Williams told me, I always knew I could do this, but now I get a chance to showcase it. So Coach Forbes knew Alondas could pass, but he said, hey, it was during this scrimmage during South Carolina where Williams was getting to the rim at will that showcased his scoring. Forbes told him, listen, we will put the ball in your hands. And then Coach Forbes told us, we kept our word.
They sure did, Brooke, because at Oklahoma, under Lon Kruger, you had Austin Reeves and you had Brady Maddock running the middle third pick and roll, and he was in the corner, so he didn't get a lot of touches. And he has certainly played with the ball in his hands all season for Steve Forbes.
It is a wise thing to get the ball into the hands of A.J. Griffin, who knocks down a 3. He's got a half dozen. Duke back on top.
Look at the ball pressure, 1 pass away. You're going to have to put it on the floor and make some plays.
LaRavia, a lot of contact there. Banchero just sort of muscled Jake to the baseline, and then on the other end misses the 3.
Here's a chance to play in transition.
Pass just a little too tall and high for LaRavia, who tried to save it.
You know, Reese, we were talking about Duke defense. Everyone 1 pass away has got a hand in a passing lane, sometimes half a body. Banchero with a block. Actually, that ball was out of bounds on LaRavia. Hit him in the head while his foot was on the out of bounds line. But I love the way they're connected. They've got high hands, short choppy steps. They are talking their action on defense, and they went through that this afternoon at shoot-around. I think they practice that every day.
I think so. Mark Williams taking the break. Theo John, the graduate transfer from Marquette, is into the game. Number 12, here's Banchero for 3. Great block out by Hadim C just into the game for Wake Forest to keep John off the boards.
All 3 of Banchero's shots have been short.
Duke's played a lot lately. Very light practice today. We talked to Mike Krzyzewski. They monitor, as most programs do these days, the workload that teams have and tailor practice based on that workload. There is Coach K.
Coach K actually told us he's a 100% analytics guy when it comes to medical issues. He's not 100% analytics on the basketball side, and that's how you win more games than anyone else, is because you have incredible feel about how to win games.
I wondered if you were going to add that part too. And he said not 100% on the others, meaning mostly threes are at the rim, you know, that type of thing that many of the analytics would tell you, and if that's your philosophy, it's fine. I think it's not necessarily Mike's.
I think you use some analytics to, you know, the way you might defend Keels. Like he likes to go right. You know, you might want to force him to go left.
Well, they were saying that today in practice about Jake Arabia. They knew which way he was going to go. He's going to drive right. Jeremy Roach is checked into the game for Duke as well. Here's Alondas Williams, some contact underneath, and they'll call Alondas for the charge.
You know, Alondas saw this charge being set up. It looked like he tried to avoid it.
And that is, I think that's a second foul on Alondas Williams, and that is not what Wake Forest needs to have their leading scorer and rebounder miss any significant amount of time.
He scored 25 points in the first matchup. It ties for the most scored by a single individual against Duke this season. And I looked at all of his shots today on Synergy, and he scored in every way possible that you could get a bucket against Duke in the first meeting.
Great theft by Musius against Banchero, and then Paolo returns the favor on the other end. Here's Moore for 3. Mari Monsanto is a great story this season. From behind, now that's his game. And he can do instant offense for Damari Monsanto, the transfer from East Tennessee State, who they thought was going to miss the entire season, Debbie, with a blown Achilles tendon, suffered in late spring, but he recovered quickly, now played 8 games and provided them a lot of offense off the bench in those games.
16 threes and 2 twos.
That is a much-needed 3 from Jeremy Roach, who has really struggled to shoot the ball of late. Gives Duke the lead. Arabia again. Turnovers have been a problem for the Demon Deacons. You see them having a lot of deflections, particularly off the dribble, when they stay with Wake Forest ball. Coming up next on ESPN and the app 9 Eastern, Oscar Tshiebwe, the ultimate rebounder, leads Kentucky against Tennessee, number 4 against number 16. As they go on Rocky Top, you can see it as soon as we're finished here from Cameron Indoor.
Oscar Tshiebwe only averaging 15 rebounds a game. That was not a game the first time those two teams met. Kentucky put 107 on them.
Boy, I tell you, Kentucky looks like a national championship caliber team to me. Certainly Final Four contender. Calipari's team has gotten better and better, and there haven't been many of their performances better than the Tennessee game and the one at Allen Fieldhouse when they took Kansas apart.
I think Severe Wheeler's going to have a big game tonight.
Davian Williamson, the fake sent people into the stands, and then he had his shot blocked. Here come the Blue Devils. Joey Baker, Bates Jones into the lineup for the Blue Devils. Here goes Roach, who hit a 3 earlier, has it blocked by C. A little bit ragged play right now. He's a little bit loose with the ball, and we got to. Monsanto is down at the other end of the floor and slow to get up. Man, you just hope it's not serious. We told you earlier about his issue with the Achilles tendon. It would be tough break if that injury is significant. We hope it's certainly not.
Had a collision with Joey Baker up the floor.
We'll check on Damari's status during the break. Duke up by 2. Last month when Duke beat Wake Forest, John Shire, who will be the head coach next season, was the head coach for that game. Coach K was out with a non-COVID related virus. John Shire will succeed Mike Krzyzewski next year, and there is a book coming out a week from today written by Ian O'Connor, The Rise and Reign of Mike Krzyzewski. Coach K, The Rise and Reign of Mike Krzyzewski by Ian O'Connor. And this is not a book that was necessarily endorsed, but it wasn't blocked or anything by anyone at Duke. There is some inner workings about the way the succession plan unfolded here at Duke. I asked Mike about the book today. He said he wasn't going to comment on it until after the season, and perhaps at some point after the season was over, he would have a look at it and read it, but at the moment wanted to concentrate on this season. But a lot of the dynamics, some of the personal interplay of this glorious run, really an unprecedented one, save perhaps for John Wooden in the history of the sport. And the book is coming out next week with quite a bit of stir being caused today by the inner workings of how it came that John Shire would be the choice. And John's a really bright young coach who done a phenomenal job recruiting for the Blue Devils. He's done a good job in a couple of opportunities to run the show when Coach K hasn't been able to be in charge.
I think John Shire is equipped, he's smart, he's hardworking, he's a great student of the game, he's a terrific teacher. We watched him go through scout today. He's got a commanding voice in practice. He's got everyone's attention.
John comes from a great family as well. I've known his folks for a number of years. Here's Cam Hildreth and Adeem C. It's going to be called basket interference. And Hildreth, the freshman from England, one of the better players that England has produced in recent years, according to our buddy Mike Schmitz. Almost had a bucket. He had a couple of buckets in the first meeting, and C just a little over anxious.
Can't resist. You know what, Steve Forbes has got to be pleased right here. You know, without Alondas Williams on the floor, your best scorer in the ACC, can keep this between 1 and 2 possessions with Williams with 2 fouls on the bench.
Debbie, Blue Devils are cooperating by making just one of their last 9 shots and dribble off the foot, and it's another turnover for the Blue Devils, their second. Feels like more. You know, it's as coaches like to say, both teams have been a little loose with the ball.
Well, Duke is shooting 28%, and Wake Forest is only shooting 31%. Wake one of their last 7.
And it's Carter Witt, freshman from Raleigh, who's in the game. Good feed to Musius, and Isaiah rises up and knocks one down.
Musius is a tough check when he's at the 3, when they go with this big lineup on the floor. He's 6'8". He's a tremendous three-point shooter. He can really stretch the defense.
How about that positioning from Wendell Moore, just taking the freshman, putting him into the pet band behind him and drawing the foul and scoring the bucket.
It's good recognition by Duke because of the IQ of their total team and their ability to average 58% of their baskets assisted. Like, this is what you call a double bury into net. Wendell Moore just puts them, as you said, in the pep band.
That's 5 for Wendell. Someday Carter Witt might be strong enough to hold his ground, but today is not that day. It's not against Wendell. Hildreth is working on Moore. He goes down the boulevard. He draws some contact, no call. C with the offensive rebound. Pump fakes a couple of times, and Williams swats it away.
Mark Williams, the top shot blocker in the ACC at better than 3 a game.
He's on his way. He's got a couple already tonight.
7'1" with a 7'7" wingspan. Are you kidding me?
Tough to get over the top.
Yeah, you got to play off 2 feet, and then you got to kick it back out. You got to draw him and then kick. Unless you're Dallas Walton, you can get into his body because you got size.
Walton, who had 5 quick points, had no luck on that one. Good-looking shot, just wouldn't go down. Bancaro, another great look. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, Mark Williams can thank assistant coach Chris Carrawell for teaching him about maturity and getting attention. Like, he just got that pass as a big man. Carrawell told me, hey, it's a guard's world where they're shooting threes and the big guy's just supposed to rim run. Bigs used to dominate the game, but now you have to be MVP good to get the ball thrown into you. I have our big guys play one-on-one to work on skill set and get a better feel. So he and Theo John actually play one-on-one from all parts of the court. He said that way when they get in that situation in the game, they can recognize a mismatch and take their defender off the dribble.
Well, they are good with their back to the basket inside the paint, but they're more than just rim runs, drop-offs, and putbacks. They both can score inside. And it is a guard's world, Brooke. Amen to that.
I just want it to be a shooter's world.
I like that too.
That was the first foul called against Bancaro against Duke. Just beat the shot clock at DMC. Second foul called on the Blue Devils almost resulted in a chance for C to have a 3-point play, but he'll go to the line and shoot a couple. That's a couple on Bancaro now. Bancaro has yet to score, had a couple of fouls. He does have 4 assists. DMC, who started his career previously anyway at Ole Miss, has doubled his scoring, or doubled his rebounding, shooting much better.
When Steve Forbes was trying to go into the portal to try to find some guys, he didn't even have a chance to meet these guys or see them in person. He did everything over Zoom. But one of the things he liked about Hadim C was that he played for Kermit Davis, so he knew he was coached and he knew that he would be prepared to play in the ACC.
There are only 4 guys back from last year's team, Debbie. They were 6 and 16 last year. They come in to this game at 20 and 6, a complete turnaround for the Deacons. They're still growing, still developing the program. And one of the things that Forbes told us earlier this year, you better fall in love with your team and blend them quickly because they're probably going to go someplace. I think we know where A.J. Griffin's going after this season. Probably to the National Basketball Association. He's got 9.
So smooth, makes it look effortless. What a basketball family he comes from.
Mother and dad, terrific players. Now Hildreth shakes Griffin. Hildreth goes in. Kind of worked too hard to avoid shot blockers, had a clear path, but maybe out-tricked himself. Here's Williams in the paint. See, makes him give it up.
Good job closing up that space.
High handoff and the baptism from Mark Williams.
My goodness.
Biggest lead of the night for the Blue Devils. And Walton trying to go to work. Duke has an 8-point lead. The big fella's doing work.
There's that play Brooke was talking about. Walton trying to go off the bounce. Bancaro drops it off to the front of the rim for Williams. How about this one? Too easy for Duke.
They do indeed.
Half, RD, back to you.
All right, Kevin, 8-point lead for Duke here. Demon Deacons have made just one of their last 11 shots. They don't have a field goal in the last 308, and this from the best shooting team in the ACC, who this season shooting just under 50%. Tonight, 26%.
And Reese, after Alondis Williams picked up those 2 fouls, he's only played 6 minutes in the game. He checks back in here after the break.
I think that's a smart move because this thing could get away before halftime. Wake Forest experienced that the first time these two teams met. It was a close game and a little spurt right before the half, and then the way Duke opened the second half put the game away. So even Deacons trying to keep it close, but with a bucket here, the Blue Devils could go up by double figures. Keels working right on Williams. There's Griffin. That's a good look, and that's a bucket. He's got a dozen, and the lead's 11. Musius to answer. And friendly rolls on the road as Isaiah Musius has 5.
4 threes in the first half for Wake.
You know, they have hit 4 of 9 from behind the arc since the calendar flipped to 2022. Duke's just allowing about 27%. And even when Duke misses, there's Mark Williams to clean it up. He has 8.
Well, the interesting thing about Wake Forest threes is that 2 of them have come from Walton. Or excuse me, 1 has come from Walton. They've sprayed it around with their bigs knocking down triples, not their guards.
And then finally, Alondis Williams gets on the board, the ACC's leading scorer. You'll recall earlier this year, Debbie, the defensive job that Duke did on Buddy Boeheim. He came in averaging just about 20 points per game. He's held 2 for 15 from the floor, 1 for 10 from 3. And that foul was called on Williams, and that is 3. Williams frustrated by the turn of events and the whistle he's gotten. Forbes appears to agree with Williams and not necessarily the trio of John Gaffney, Doug Sermons, and Jeb Hartness. Trevor Keels looking for his first point.
I mean, Keels puts it on the floor, and he goes right at Williams. I don't see any contact there. That's a bad call.
That is a terrible, terrible miss. All the contact that's been let go in college basketball, and we're at a record low for fouls called. That's really ungood.
That really could change the game for Steve Forbes.
No question.
Now you know we're not going to see him in the rest of the half. So
much more will be on Jake Laravia now, who's been relatively quiet. They did a 3 early. Walton, soft kiss off the glass.
Dallas Walton is playing with a ton of confidence. I would keep running some sets to and through him. He's got the 3-point range. He's got the ability to score in a one-on-one. He scored on Mark Williams and on Theo John.
7 points tonight, Debbie. He just had 4 in the first inning between these two teams. He's been much more aggressive, and they need him to. Also more aggressive coming off the bench is Jeremy Roach. He has 5.
It's so much easier to attack a closeout after a ball reversal, whether it gets a skip over the top or you get a piece of the paint and kick. Duke does that very well. It's part of the reason why they lead the league in assists.
Good to see Monsanto back in the game. He went down earlier. It looked as if he got a knee to the thigh in a collision with Joey Baker. Roach lines up another 3. Walton keeps it alive, and Monsanto has the rebound. Headed toward the 4-minute mark here at Cameron Indoor. Reese Davis, Hall of Famer Debbie Antonelli, and Brooke Weisbrod here as Isaiah Musius goes in and misses. Rebound Griffin.
I don't know why you would go to a possession right now if you're Wake without having Dallas Walton get a touch. Good ball movement.
Excellent passing, and then wide open Roach in the corner.
Flip that, everybody in America, because when you move the ball and you make the extra pass and you turn down a good shot for a better shot, you have a higher percentage of scoring. Duke got it rolling right now in Cameron.
And Brooke and the new Hall of Famer, Deb.
Kevin, thank you very much. As Seth alluded to, Wake Forest has committed 6 fouls, 3 of them against Williams. How about this ball movement, Deb?
2 dribbles, everyone gets a touch. They space the floor. Wake Forest is a pass to a pass and a half late, and you get a great look.
You know what else that does?
Beautiful,
that
beautiful.
Second 3 that Jeremy Roach has made tonight. And it was an easy look, and the reason I bring it up, he hit just 7 of his last 31 from behind the arc. He's hit 2 of 3 tonight, and both times they've been in rhythm. The result of excellent Duke pass. Now down 12, Wake Forest needs to make sure this thing doesn't get away before the break. Avian Williamson for 3, it's too long. Monsanto keeps it alive, so a fresh possession for the Deacons if they can keep from turning it over.
This is when you got to look to score quickly. Good choice by Musius because Duke's not organized defensively off the offensive rebound. That's why you kick to 3. When they lock it in now, it's tough. I mean, this is one of the best offensive teams in Wake Forest, who leads the league in field goal percentage at 49, really struggling against this good defense.
That was a great move from Theo John, going around Walton. Biggest lead of the night for the Blue Devils at 14.
Williamson's got to get going here. He's got to try to get in the paint and try to spray it around a little bit because the Duke defense is really pushing Wake Forest away from the bucket. And there's Monsanto. You know he's not going to pass.
I love that dude. He just lets it fly, man. And playing a little defense, too, knocking it out of bounds on the return pass. It'll be Duke basketball. Well, Saturday's showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy. Florida State, one of the teams in the ACC to beat Duke when the Noles are fully healthy. We'll be in Cameron Indoor. You'll be here Saturday night.
Yes,
That's right.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Florida State has had a tough go of it. They've lost 6 in a row.
In Kansas and West Virginia at 8 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. So also streaming live on the app. And then College Game Day going back to Tucson, a surging Oregon team to take on a Wildcat squad led by Benedict Matherin, who looks like a Final Four contender, ranked 3rd in the country. Looking forward to getting back to the Tail Center. Always given us a great reception for College Game Day, and we've been there over the years. And the hot shooting of Mark Williams continues. He's now hit all 5 of his field goal attempts.
Mark Williams is 21 for 24 in the last 4 games, if you count what he's done so far tonight.
He's into double figures. Monsanto lets it fly again. That one's a little short. Rebound Williams. Headed toward 90 seconds to play here in the first half. Blue Devils have played very well. Deem C with the rebound. Deacons trying to keep it close. Transition for Jake Laravia. That's what they need.
So a quick 3, a long rebound, and a transition bucket for Wake. It's a couple of times Duke's shot it quickly and has led to Wake Forest being able to run. They get so much action out of this horn set.
The tip miss. I couldn't believe that Williams actually tipped it. It didn't go in. Laravia on the push. C gets Williams in the air. And then back to Laravia, who has 2 buckets in a row. And Wake Forest back within single digits. Laravia with 7. And the use it or lose it for the Blue Devils. Just a 30-second timeout back with the end of the first half after this. It's college basketball Sunday on ABC and the app. #1 South Carolina, Leah Boston, Player of the Year candidate from what I understand, against Tennessee. Number 12. And of course, we'll get you ready for that showdown in the SEC. College Game Day, women's version will travel to Columbia, South Carolina, an exclusive pregame show. That's Sunday at noon. Elle Duncan, Rebecca Lobo, Carolyn Peck, Holly Rowe, Andrea Carter, all will be there on the call.
Yes, Aaliyah Boston is a candidate for National Player of the Year. Best player on the best team. I had South Carolina on Sunday. They scored 51 points in the first half. They look good. They look like the #1 overall seed and the #1 team in the country for sure.
And Caitlin Clark's been good too.
Caitlin Clark leads the nation in scoring and assists. She's also a candidate for Player of the Year.
Wendell Moore with a triple. He has 8 to push it back to a dozen. See if Wake can get a bucket before the half. Keel's really giving it to Laravia, and going to be called for the foul on the outside. And Wake Forest is not in the bonus yet. It's only the 4th team foul against the Blue Devils, so in theory, they could foul a couple more times and make it even more difficult for Wake Forest to get up a shot. Assuming the right person does it. With so few team fouls, you don't want anybody to get a couple of cheap ones and work their way into foul trouble. That is a good inbound pass. Laravia for 3. Excellent. Side out of bounds, playing a great way to stem the tide just a bit for the Deacons as Laravia goes into double figures, knocking down the triple. 42-33 now. Griffin has been terrific with a dozen so far. We'll give Wake Forest the credit for that 3 on the board in a moment. It's a 9-point game. And we'll go down to the court as the Blue Devils head to the locker room. Brooke Weisbrod as John Shire.
12 assists on 16 field goals is pretty good. Why was your ball movement so effective in that first half?
We're just playing together. We had some really fun connecting plays. When we share like that and just take what the defense gives us, we're a hard team to stop defensively.
Alondis Williams with 3 fouls in that first half. What do you kind of expect him to respond?
Well, he's going to come out ready to go. He's a guy who he's not going to quit. He's someone, if you relax for 1 second, he can hurt you in a lot of different ways. So we'll be ready to guard him.
Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
John, Brooke, thank you very much. A 42-33 lead for Duke at the half. That's our score at the break. Now let's send it to Kevin LaFonso and Seth for the Jeep halftime report.
RD, thanks.
Impressive, about ready to start the second half in Cameron Indoor. Duke on top of Wake Forest, 42-33. Reese Davis, Debbie Antonelli, Brooke Weisbrod with you. Only 3 games remaining in Coach K's final season. It's Blue Devils with the 9-point lead at the half. Duke was really efficient on offense, moved the ball well at times as we take a look at the Capital One rewarding performance.
Well, when Duke moves the ball and they get the defense chasing and you're a pass to a pass and a half late, it's really challenging to try to catch up. Look at this play right here. 2 dribbles in the corner court. Everybody moves the ball. They space the floor. They get a little shot fake. Next time down is Banchero dropping it off for Williams. Roach at the rim. And then A.J. Griffin. Another terrific start. 12 points on 3 for 4 outside the 3-point line. Wake Forest made this a single-digit game because in the last minute 27 of the first half, Jake Laravia scored 7 of his 10 points.
By the way, Debbie, if you thought a couple of ACC Player of the Year candidates, Paolo Banchero and Alondis Williams, would combine for more fouls than points in the first half, you are truly a visionary. Banchero didn't score. He did have 4 assists. Alondis Williams just a 3, but he also had 3 fouls. Duke assisted. We saw the excellent ball movement on 12 of their 16 field goals. Wake, 100%. Every field goal the Deacons scored, assisted. Now, Alondis Williams, who leads the ACC in scoring and assists only with those 3, they'll need a much more productive second half from him. He gets it started over Banchero and misses badly.
And on the other side, Banchero 0 for 3. He does have 4 assists. He's not been to the free throw line. Let's see if Coach K tries to get him going early.
And as we look down toward the bench right now, I'm told that we're perched high above, and Mike Krzyzewski has not returned to the bench yet, I don't believe.
No, I do not see him.
Davian Williamson misses from the corner. We'll get an update on that when you can. You see the seat between Nolan Smith and head coach in waiting John Shire is empty. That's the one Coach K was in the first half. Wendell Moore, we're talking at halftime, Debbie, just such a complete and mature player.
You know when you see a good ref out on the floor and you never notice him and you go, that's a good officiating job. It's sort of like Wendell Moore. You know, he's so solid. It's all substance. He can impact the game in every aspect of the stat sheet, especially on the right side, where he can get assists, steals, rebounds, and get them into their transition game. And he's a really good perimeter defender.
Alondis Williams had that last basket.
You kind of take guys like that for granted sometimes. I think he could be Player of the Year in the ACC.
He's been sensational, and so too is Mark Williams, and that's another assist from Banchero. Banchero now with a half-dozen assists, finding a way to impact Duke's offense despite the fact that he's not scoring. And look, they want him to be shot ready, but if you can you can set up your teammates like that unselfishly, that makes it easier for you later.
Well, that's part of being shot ready, is playing the game low to high and being able to make a quick decision whether you shoot it or you make a play for someone else. Seems like that's been the message that Coach K has been sending to Banchero, and he has responded.
Banchero almost double dribbled that time. Got it to Moore. Powell has size advantage on Alondas Williams, shoots over him and gets it to nestle home for his first points of the night.
Well, Duke doing a really good job of isolating that matchup with Alondas Williams with those 3 fouls.
Again, Mike Krzyzewski has not returned to the bench from halftime. Not aware of anything just yet. We're checking on it, get an update on what the situation is with Coach K. Shire imploring the Blue Devils to run, and really good job by Laravia to tie up Banchero on his way to the basket. Possession arrow belongs to Duke.
John Shire actually coached the Wake Forest game. The first matchup, Coach K not available, as you mentioned earlier. Earlier in the season, Coach K was not available due to an illness, not COVID related.
At practice today, I asked Coach K about what they could build on from the first game as Moore scores again. And he said, well, probably the first thing is that John coached the game instead of me. He said, so that helped. And then he looked at me because, look, I've been around a long time too, not quite as long as he, but he goes, you were fishing for that one, weren't you? I said, no, I really wasn't.
We had a great conversation with Coach K. It was great to see him in the lab. The scouting report, the breakdown, this discussion over defense with his team, how connected they are, how important staying together.
Davian Williamson going to the free throw line.
And then on the other side with Steve Forbes, his practice, he stood over there and talked to us the entire shoot around with a keen eye on what was going on. He would be interrupted in this conversation with instructions to his team.
That is a rarity to see Davian Williamson miss a free throw. He's shooting 89%. In fact, I was looking back through his game-by-game numbers. I think the only game this year in which he had missed 2 free throws was the first meeting against Duke. I think it was 6 out of 8, and that's his first point.
What's going to be important for them to get to the free throw line? They had more free throws in the game against Duke the first time they met. They were also +7 on the glass, so those are 2 areas in the second half they got to shore up.
So Wake Forest trails by 14. Brooke, you talked to Steve Forbes a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I asked him if he was going to change anything with Alondas Williams, that he has 3 fouls, and he said, we're not going to change anything about his game. We want to make sure that he's playing downhill, that he's attacking, and that he's still doing the things that makes him a great player. He said the problem is Mark Williams. We got to try to keep him off the glass. They felt like they did a great job on Paulo Banchero, limiting him to no points in the first half, but I don't think he saw Mark Williams coming.
How can you miss him?
Well, first, he's huge, and he's really, as we talked about in the first half, he's one of the most improved players, not only in the ACC, in the country. Wake Forest 1-13 against top 10 teams since 2018. In fact, these two tonight, Debbie, Wake Forest and Duke, for all the tradition they have in the ACC, this is the first time that they've met both as 20-win teams since 2009.
Well, you got to give Steve Forbes some credit for what he's been able to do and how he pulled this group together, and all of his experience through his years of junior college and small Division I basketball. Coming from East Tennessee State, he won 30 games a year before he took the the Wake Forest job. He knows how to put it together.
That he does. Williams with a terrific look and a flush from big Dallas Walton, who's having himself a night. He's got 9.
He has been impressive. It's a nice drop-off by Williams. Remember, he leads the league in assists as well. He's a tremendous playmaker.
And how about Williams stepping in?
That's close.
Yeah. And he draws the offensive foul, second on Wendell Moore. What do you think?
Yeah, that's definitely a charge. He ran him over. Williams is wiping the sweat off his brow.
Yeah, picking up 4 before the first media timeout in the second half would not be conducive to a Wake Forest rally. Duke really turning up the defensive heat. Turnover for Wade. Trevor Keels working on Williams and Williams, and that's automatic. $14 for Williams. Moore almost got the pick from behind. Giving up points off turnovers is really what crushed Wake Forest over the weekend against Miami. Here's Alondas Williams for three. Front of the iron, no good. How about the play by Griffin to keep it in possession? And the lob from Banchero goes awry, and Paolo is going to get called for the foul. A 16-point lead for Duke. Banchero just picked up his third. It is the biggest lead of the night for the Blue Devils. Mark Williams has 14. We'll have an update on Mike Krzyzewski when you come back to Cameron Indoor. John Shire acting as head coach in the second half when Mike Krzyzewski did not return from the locker room after the halftime intermission. Brooke Weisbrod, what do you know about Coach K?
Yes, I spoke with Sports Information Director Mike DeGeorge. He said Coach K is not feeling well, so he will not be back out for the rest of the game. He was chatting with doctors, but he will not make a return.
All right, Brooke, thank you. Certainly we hope Coach K gets to feeling better quickly. As we mentioned earlier, Shire coached the first meeting against Wake Forest when Mike Krzyzewski was out with a non-COVID related illness. And we hope he gets to feeling better. Mike just turned 75 the day before Valentine's Day. He will not return tonight. His team, meanwhile, with a comfortable 16-point cushion with just over 15 minutes to play here in Durham. Damari Monsanto's return.
Oh yeah, that's going up. He's got a switch with Theo John on him. Pulled him away a little bit.
Left just a tad short. Banchero and Alondas Williams both playing with 3 fouls, the 2 stars for their respective teams. A.J. Griffin has been a star tonight. Here is Banchero, and he's got his first triple of the evening.
Just a great fill behind the penetration to get his feet set and let it fly outside the 3-point line with confidence.
Williams on the drive and the strong take. He's so crafty around the basket.
So strong. His upper body strength, his commitment, he's determined. He wants the ball in his hands.
Now trying to exhort his team on the defensive end. Roach back into the game. He had a good first half.
There's a couple times Roach has come off that horn and said he's looked to penetrate when I think he ought to try to draw some help and make a play for someone else.
Jake Laravia for 3. Wake Forest with 5 straight. Laravia now has 13. The lead is 14.
If you know anything about Steve Forbes, you know his team's not going to quit. Wake Forest trying to ice ball screens on the side.
Laravia hit Paolo Banchero as he went by, and Paolo will go to the line and shoot 3. That's 2 on Jake Laravia, pleading his case, but he clearly bumped him.
This will be Paulo's first trip to the free throw line.
I would like to, perhaps later in the second half. I hope this game gets closer. If it doesn't, perhaps we can opine about bringing the coaches back to a proper dress code. Paolo makes the first. Coming up next on ESPN and the app at 9 Eastern, Oscar Tshiebwe leads the nation in rebounding. As Debbie mentioned in the first half, Kentucky flat ran Tennessee out of Rupp in their first meeting, but this Sonic blockbuster on Super Tuesday, perhaps a different story in Knoxville, number 4 against number 16, as the Cats and the Vols get together.
I'm telling you, it's Wheeler's night for John Calipari. He's going to have a big night, sensing a double-double distributing the basketball.
You know, I'm hoping, 10 points now for Banchero all in the second half. I'm hoping we see that game. It'll be shades of Joby Hall and the late great Ray Mears when they used to come out in the blue jacket, the bright orange jacket out there. Speaking of proper dress code for coaches.
Nobody can look as good as you, Reese. This guy's got no chance when you're in the building.
I knew that there was a reason I liked working with you. 17-point lead for the Blue Devils. Bancaro working on LaRavia, and he travels.
Good D by Jake LaRavia. A lot of indecision by Paulo. You know, that's the universal symbol, my bad. I mean, he's got to use that big frame, play the leverage game, get hips and shoulders by his defender, or move the ball.
Bancaro, 6 assists. Good job passing the ball in the first half. 4 of those coming in the first half when he was scoreless. There's LaRavia going to work, can't get it. And John and Keels were fighting for the rebound. The way the Blue Devils in control and with the ball. Wendell Moore. And Williams. Wake Forest needs a bit of a run. They need to get some points in transition, score quickly, kind of put some game pressure on Duke. That is what they do not need to do, is another turnover. Moore gets it back. LaRavia with another rebound, and Trevor Keels is going to be called for the foul. It's his second.
Trevor Keels without a field goal.
See the difference in Paulo in the first half and the second half?
And the difference is he was able to get to the free throw line. He was aggressive, making good choices. 5 for 5 in the second half from the line. Didn't shoot any free throws, 0 points in the first half.
Did have his minutes limited by picking up a couple of fouls in the first half. His boy Roach is really hounding Davian Williamson, made him pick up his dribble 45 feet from the basket. Nadeem C over the top of Theo John. Theo wanted an offensive foul. I think that was just a strong move by the Ole Miss transfer. There's that set that Moore goes to work off of, kicks it out to Griffin.
Well, it's a great set because you got A.J. Griffin behind the three-point line, and you can't help off the strong side shooter.
Wendell might have been better off to grab that rebound and go right back up with it. I think he would have found himself virtually uncontested. Tried for the tip, it didn't go. 15-point deficit for Wake Forest. LaRavia drives, and they're going to call, I think they're going to get Keels again. That's 3 on him. LaRavia going to the free throw line when you come back.
Reese, Deb, Brooke, back to you.
Wow, how about that one? Penn State at home against Michigan State, trying to hang on down the stretch. It's time to check out our assist of the game, brought to you by State Farm.
Well, this is just a great job by Bancaro in first half. Drop it off inside to Mark Williams at the front of the rim. All 7-1 of them flushing it inside. I think his decision-making has been excellent. I think he's...
How about this for efficient and effective offense? Wake has assisted on 15 of its 17 field goals. Duke on 17 of 22.
Both above their percentages. Duke at 58%. They're 6th in the nation in assist turnover margin. They're terrific. And then Wake Forest, 54% of their baskets are assisted.
Bancaro with a half dozen of those 17 Duke assists. LaRavia bounces in the second one. He has 14.
It just works when the ball snaps, pops, moves. People are cutting. Look at the space for Duke.
Bancaro, that's a chance for another assist, but good defense in the post by Wake Forest against Mark Williams. I think LaRavia might have gotten a hand on it. Monsanto skips it. Now Walton, he's hit a couple of those. Down the boulevard, and Dallas Walton missed the layup.
That's a break for Duke, because there's several times Mark Williams has left his feet on a shot fake at the three-point line. That should never happen.
And Walton on the other end fouls Bancaro.
Remember that conversation Coach K had with us today about when Mark Williams chooses to block shots, his natural instinct is to go and try to block everything, but you can't leave your feet in that situation and allow Walton to get penetration.
You see John Shire, Mike Krzyzewski was on the bench in the first half. Did not come out for the second half. The Duke staff said he's not feeling well. He's consulted the doctor. Certainly hope he Just feeling better soon. John Shire, associate head coach and head coach in waiting, will take over this Duke program next year, taking the reins here in the second half. And Caro makes one of two. Lead is 15 as we're just inside 11 minutes to play here in Durham. Walton. This time it rattles in. Another 3-ball for Dallas Walton. His second of the night, and he's into double figures with a dozen. Now, Duke, since the first of the year, has only allowed about 27% from three. Wake Forest has missed some recently, still shooting 37% tonight. About as good a three-point performance as we've seen against the Blue Devils in recent games, but their two-point defense has been exceptional.
Duke has so many different ways on the offensive end that they can beat you with their personnel. They're so good at recognizing matchups. They're really good at feeding the post and playing through the block. In a matchup with Theo John and/or Mark Williams, you play that straight up if you're Wake, but when you put Banchero down on the block, you see Wake's bringing two to that matchup, and Banchero's capable of making a play from that.
Had the update a minute ago from the Penn State-Michigan State game. Nittany Lions held on to win that game. Wendell Moore tried to draw a foul from Damari Monsanto. I think Damari was afraid he got caught. He did not. Walton from the corner, another 3-ball for the big fella.
Hey, how about Steve Forbes' system where you can run your 7-footer like a guard on the wing? Instead of running the middle of the floor, Walton sprints to the corner.
And just when you think the Blue Devils were cruising along comfortably, Wake has clawed back within 9. Tonight's Sonic Blockbuster is coming up next. Kentucky and Tennessee. Oscar Tshiebwe, how about that? 16 points, 15 rebounds for Dean. Leading the nation in rebounding. Boy, what a pickup he's been for John Calipari's team. Just a relentless rebounder. On game day a couple of weeks ago, Alfonso Ellis did a great tape. Body type's different, but the pursuit, the anticipation, the angles they play calls to mind Dennis Rodman.
The IQ, the effort, relentless, knows his role. He just eats it up.
Debbie Blue Devils looking for their first field goal in more than 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
I like Banchero on the block.
Griffin dribbling in traffic. Banchero steps from outside the arc, and Wake Forest down 9 with the ball, 9.5 to play here in Durham.
Banchero short on all his three-point attempts tonight.
Moravia to Monsanto. Wendell Moore knocked it away and out of bounds. 16 on the shot clock. It'll be Wake's ball. And Wake has shot it well from 3. They've hit 10 of 25 from behind the arc. They're only shooting had under 40% for the game overall, and this is a top shooting team in the ACC, so twos have been hard to come by, but they've stayed within striking distance thanks to good shooting from behind the arc, largely from that big fella, Dallas Walton. Both bigs playing together. Monsanto, a long-range 3, no good. He'll chase it down and save it to Moravia, who has a look. The lead is down to 6, a 9-0 run for the Demon Deacons.
It's Moravia and it's Walton. And they have done an excellent job with their defense, keeping Alondis Williams from being able to get downhill.
And the answer from Jeremy Roach to stop the bleeding. Duke had gone over 5 minutes without a field goal.
Trevor Keel's encouraging his teammates, let's pick it up defensively. This is where you look to go backdoor.
How about the move by Laravia along the baseline against one of the best primary defenders in the country in Wendell Moore?
You can feel the building giving Duke a lift. I love this exchange right here.
Banchero misses. Williams with a chance if he wants to push in transition. Williams right to the bucket and scores! 4-point game. 13-2 run. Roach again, loose ball and turnover for the Blue Devils. And Williams, who's playing with 3 fouls, and it's called a block in the back court. Every Demon Deacon might have been holding his or her breath there. We've got a ball game to finish up here in Cameron. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance. Visit progressive.com. At one time, the Duke lead was 19. Now it's down to 4. Reese Davis and Debbie Antonelli here in Cameron Indoor Stadium. As you might have heard last night, my partner named a Hall of Famer, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and the entire crew wanted to get you just a small little token of congratulations. What a wonderful honor. I always love to hear, what was it like when you got the word, when you found out you were going to be a Hall of Famer?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you to the crew. It was very nice. Shocking, humbling, emotional, very grateful, but very surprised.
Well, there's no one more deserving, and Debbie has done so much for basketball in general and women's basketball particularly, and goes in as a contributor. And what a class you are a part of here, Debbie.
Yes, that class is impressive. Becky Hammond and Penny Taylor, Doug Bruno, my longtime friend, Paul Sanderford, long time overdue for him, Delisha Milton-Jones, one of the Player of the Year. Alice Barron was a great player back in the day for Wayland Baptist, and of course Bob Schneider's won more basketball games than almost anyone except for Coach K.
Right now,
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Coach K's team is in a fight right now. Krzyzewski not out for the second half. Damari Monsanto cut it to 2. And Wake and Tyre take the lead with a bucket after being down 19 earlier. Walton puts it up, leaves it short. Laravia fighting for it. Blue Devils corral the rebound.
This is where Duke needs to have a very mature offensive possession. They've got to move the ball, get a couple of sides.
Trevor Keels for 3.
Or Trevor Keels be willing to take a big shot.
Keels' first 3 and first field goal of the night. Duke has won 22 in a row in this building against Wake Forest, the most consecutive wins over a single opponent. Wake trying to change that as Alondis Williams gets into double figures. It's a 3-point game. 6.5 to play. It really looked as if the Blue Devils were on cruise control just a short while ago, but Wake wouldn't have a lot of contact and no foul called in there. Walton getting into the front court just now. Wake playing this bigger lineup with both C and Walton on the floor, and Arabia lost it. He was last to touch it. 8th turnover of the night for the Demon Deacons.
I mean, Keels is really turning the corner after making that 3. Laravia puts the ball right in front of Banchero, who gets a tip. You got to tighten up with the basketball right now. You got to be sharp with it, strong. You got to shorten your angles. You can't throw any soft passes. You can't handle it soft. You got to pound it.
That is one thing that some will tell you that Wake Forest will do from time to time. 2 tips, and the second one for Moore goes down. 14 for Wendell Moore Jr. Williams trying to answer around Mark Williams, and Big Mark uses that 7'7" wingspan to get the rebound. Bounce pass to Keels from Banchero, and he's fouled on the way.
C and Williams getting into it. I saw Hadim C just shove Mark Williams out of the way.
Coach K telling us today that Mark Williams by nature is not an aggressive human being, but wants him on the court to flip the switch, and getting shoved by C seemed to flip that switch just a bit.
There's the foul. Keels is going to shoot 2 free throws.
And
yeah, Williams is trying to help his player up,
yeah.
and C took offense to Williams touching him.
Emotions running hot from that angle. It was tough to see, but I think you're right. When Mark just sort of, it was a pretty innocuous thing right there. He kind of pushed him. I mean, it wasn't a shove. Williams was more like Mark Williams was like a guide, and C answered with a shove.
I agree with that.
So what do you think the proper call is here, as we have John Gaffney and Jeff Hartness at the monitor checking it out?
Well, I think there's going to be a technical foul assessed on C.
Now they're calling over Doug Sermons. We'll take another look at it now.
You know, I don't think C was standing over him. I don't think there was any taunting going on. I think he just took offense to Mark Williams putting his hands on him.
And they're taking a look at it now, and if indeed Nadim C gets a technical foul, that is an ill-timed moment to lose your composure.
Well, I was at Clemson on Thursday night with David Collins and Wendell Moore play, and that could have escalated very quickly. I think the officials did a really good job here of separating. Little chatter going on, but
yeah, and
Duke takes, you know, I think Duke is trying to protect theirs, right?
Yeah, and to be clear, that play was nothing like
not even close.
That was
I've never seen anything like that. The Duke play, Duke Clemson play involving David Collins and Wendell Moore.
Moore was probably 8 feet in the air when he landed, basically flat of his back, and now they're going to call a double technical foul. They're going to call it on C and Mark Williams.
Yeah, I don't know why Mark Williams is being assessed, but that would be penalties of equal gravity, so there will be cancel out of those free throws, and they should go back to shooting Keels at the free throw line, shooting the 2 free throws for the foul that was committed by C.
Well, the public address announcer just informed the crowd of the double technical, and they greeted that decision as you might expect. Inside Cameron Indoor, John Shire a little frustrated by that. You saw the looks on the faces of the Duke assistants when they saw it, because clearly C's was a shove, and it was far more aggressive than what Mark Williams did, but perhaps they just decided to call it both ways, play on. Potentially could have been a game-swinging momentum play. Trevor Keels, who was fouled, the one who got the initial foul on the way to the basket, makes the first free throw. He's got 6. One of 2, 6-point game. Demon Deacons with it. Alondas Williams with the ball in his hand. ACC's leading scorer, and held to 11 tonight, largely due to foul trouble. At 25 when these two teams met in January. Moravia working on Banchero, spins back to his right, now looking for some help. Monsanto was cutting, but that was a desperation pass, and then Monsanto fouls Keels in the backcourt. Duke is in the 1-and-1.
Reese, how about that defensive effort by Banchero? Because Wake basically isolated Laravia in that matchup. And Laravia leaves his feet. Banchero slides his.
Well, that's the thing. There are coaches in the conference who will say that they're willing to go at Banchero because he's more of an offensive player, sometimes maybe not quite as engaged as everyone on the Duke side would like, but almost all of them then will hasten to point out when he wants to play defense, he is certainly more than capable of it. You saw it there.
I don't think anyone wants to be the weak link on this end of the floor for Duke, right, on the defensive end.
Really good defensive team. They pressure the ball, got the big shot blocker in the back. Heading toward the 5-minute mark, 7-point lead, and just a loose turnover from Alondas Williams. And he'll exacerbate it by picking up his fourth foul. That was not the best sequence you'll see from the Oklahoma transfer who's been sensational this season.
Well, he gets the ball stolen, and then that's clearly a foul. He impeded the ball handler. We do have freedom of movement in the game.
Well,
we're supposed to.
That's the idea anyway. And that was the right call, by the way. But easy call. Way out on the floor. Moore makes the first free throw, and he makes the second.
So it's not a hard decision for Steve Forbes to leave Williams on the floor. Now, let's see how he handles the next 5 minutes, because it's been really challenging for him to get downhill. Duke has done a tremendous job on him.
Walton has had some big moments from behind the arc tonight, misses the three.
And so now you're looking to attack Williams on this end of the floor.
And the lead, which got whittled all the way down to 2, can go back to double figures. Keels loses it on the way up. Williams corrals it, and then Trevor gets it back. Been a lot of active hands in this game, Debbie. The ball's been flailing around quite a bit. Keels a little short on the 3, and Williams slammed it off of Walton, but the whistle had blown prior to that. Officials making sure that Dallas doesn't get upset about having the ball spiked off of it.
Wake Forest needs to get connected right here. I mean, they need to move the ball, and they need to up their level of energy on this end of the floor. Their body language doesn't look good to me on the offensive end.
Williams all the way.
That's the kind of body language I'm talking about. That's aggressive to the rim. Look how quick that first step is.
Seen a couple of those drives in this Wake Forest rally. The lead had gotten down to 2. Duke pushed it back out. Does Wake have another push in them? And a block on Adeem C as he was trying to handle Paolo Banchero. A 7-point game at the under 4 timeout. Duke trying to hang on.
Kevin Seth and Fonz back in studio. Florida on that first 4 out bubble here, taking on Texas A&M, Seth.
And they cannot afford to lose this game. Right now it's 45-all. They clawed their way back in this game. They are in serious trouble on the bubble.
Ty Washington, by the way, listed as day-to-day here, but this is a good sign for the Cats that he's on the floor.
From our inside crew that's there on site that he had a good shoot-around this morning, so I look forward to seeing him attacking off the bounce in the half court.
Kentucky at Tennessee, that game less than 13 minutes away, Reese.
All right, Kevin, and for the incredibly organized among you who want to put this into your calendar now, November 24th through the 27th, the 2022 Feast Week, PKI multi-team tournament, 8 men's teams, 4 women's teams competing, all games on the ESPN networks. Duke will be in the Phil Knight Legacy, presented by Rip City Management. Duke will be led by John Shire next season after Mike Krzyzewski retires after 42 seasons here at Duke. If you just happened to be joined us mid-game, Mike Krzyzewski was on the bench for the Blue Devils in the first half, did not return for the second half. Reports from Duke is that he's not feeling well. He is still in Cameron, back in the locker room, we are told. John Shire, who coached the first meeting between these two teams, has taken the reins here in the second half. Certainly hope Coach K is feeling better soon. 2 more games here at Cameron in Mike Krzyzewski's reign. 1 coming up Saturday. Debbie, you'll be here for Florida State, and then the regular season ender against North Carolina.
You'll be here for that one, but yes, send our best wishes to Coach K.
Jake Arabia with 19 points, working on Banchero, working on a whole bunch of Blue Devils. Adeem C with the foul, and C gets fouled on his way up.
Steve Forbes really likes that Laravia matchup against Banchero. That's another time here late in the game he's gone to it. A lot of confidence in Laravia to be able to score.
And that foul is on Banchero, and it's his 4th. So both Banchero and Alondas Williams, the Wake Forest star, have battled foul trouble for much of the night. both leading contenders for ACC Player of the Year. Williams has taken a more assertive role in the second half. Banchero as well, scoring all 13 of his points in the second half. He also has a half dozen assists as C makes the first free throw.
A 53% free throw shooter, and Coach K spoke specifically to his team about gang rebounding on the free throw line.
Made them both. 7-point lead for the Blue Devils. Team C with 6. They find Banchero. Working on Williams. 4 fouls and 4 fouls. Walton comes to help.
Now they double Banchero on the block.
3 ball just hasn't really been there tonight. Now just 1 of 5. Alondis Williams in the front court. C right by Mark Williams. A lot of contact there. A good recovery by Duke right there as Wade tried to swing the ball as we saw the Blue Devils do in the first half. Get a good look at a 3 and it didn't happen. Now the shot clock's at 5. Williams has to force one up. It doesn't go. Monsanto with the offensive rebound. And Banchero spots it away. And it's saved by Keels. Tremendous play by Trevor Keels. A.J. Griffin for 3. Follows his own. Gets the offensive rebound. Ball loose on the floor. No whistles anywhere. And Duke will reset. Great effort on this end to save that ball by Trevor Keels.
That's just great hustle. That's the will to win, making a winning play late.
Banchero with the drive, the dish to Griffin, goes up strong, and it's a shot clock violation. How about this effort? Monsanto with a great offensive rebound, the block and the save. There's 2 tremendous plays, first by Banchero with the block and then Keels to save it and give his team an opportunity in transition.
Got to go. Wake wants a timeout.
30-second timeout as Wake Forest down 7. Needs to make every possession productive.
Second game of our doubleheader in the SEC, Kennedy Chandler and Tennessee hosting Kentucky.
His ability to be able to take care of the basketball will determine if Tennessee can win this game.
Less than 8 minutes away from tip. Let's go to Reese, Deb, and Brooke.
2 minutes to go, 7-point lead for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I think Steve Forbes has got to get the ball in Williams' hand, try to get him going downhill, and then look for some pressure.
23 on the shot clock. Forbes in here for the first time with a crowd, and just really an unforced turnover, an ill-advised pass. The 11th turnover of the night could not have come at a worse time for the Demon Deacons.
Especially after the ATO, when you expect to get some points, you can't come up empty.
Blue Devils made the pass hard, and Monsanto has had some really good moments tonight. Tough one there. Williams guarding Moore. Blue Devils had a shot clock violation last time. That's better than a live ball turnover, though. Griffin, shot clock getting deep, has his pocket picked by Alondis Williams. Shire exhorting his team to get back on defense with 90 seconds to play. Williams probably fortunate he didn't turn it over there. Laravia the spin, over the top, it won't go, but the tip out. Walton for 3. Another opportunity, here's Williams for 3, he got it! That's a 4-point game.
That's the kind of hustle Steve Forbes was looking for. What tremendous basketball IQ by Laravia to keep it alive.
I think Monsanto thought Keels was about to call a timeout, and instead they throw it away. Under a minute to go. Walton running for the dunk. Wake Forest, a quick timeout. How many times as Wake Forest looked as if they were down for the count, and they fought back.
The hustle on the offensive glass to get a second and a third opportunity. Williams steps into it from 3, and then Walton running the floor hard.
Man, Walton with 17 points tonight. That matches his season high.
He's been
scored
terrific.
against Virginia Tech. He has been sensational.
How about Steve Forbes telling us today? From Gravel Road to Tobacco Road. Last time he was in here was COVID. The bleachers weren't pulled out. There were no students. He was soaking it up at shoot around. He was really looking around, and
he's really done a good job in team building with this group. Only 4 guys coming back from a year ago. Every Demon Deacon has to check into his office with an assistant coach by 1 o'clock every day. And sometimes those little things that can seem like they wouldn't mean much during a game pull together. They've been down and out. A lot of times they could have let go of the rope tonight, especially after they rallied to within 2, went back to double figures, and now with 52.9 to go, it's a 2-point game. Their star, Alondas Williams, playing with 4 fouls. Forbes' team has scored the last 7 points. Put some game pressure on the Blue Devils. Now, what does Duke need to do offensively here?
well, I think Duke needs to move the ball. They love that middle third. They can get the ball on a downhill drive with Keels or more. I also like Bancaro on the block to draw 2 and then skip it. Want to play good defense right here.
Williams with 4 fouls. Now's not the time to worry about that. They'd like to have him for the end, but he's got to play solid D on Moore. The double comes. Moore's in a world of trouble. And it's an over and back call. It's Wake Forest basketball.
What a great defensive change by Steve Forbes. They have not been trapping ball screen, and this is not even a screen, it's an exchange that Wake was prepared for. They do a great job of jumping out. That's a tremendous trap by Forbes and a great call from the bench on the timeout.
Duke hasn't scored in the last 3 minutes, and they've turned it over 4 times, and now Wake can tie or take the lead with a bucket.
It's about 1 second differential.
Williams all the way to the bucket, blocked, but a foul called, a blocking foul called, and Alondas Williams will go to the free throw line. Mark Williams got it with a clean block up top, but got him with the body just a little bit.
Wow. I mean, Bancaro gets beat. Williams rotates over. I almost thought that was vertical.
Sure looked like it. Williams brings it to within 1. Now, Alondas had a tough one go against him in the first half on a similar type play. Maybe got the benefit of the doubt here.
And John Shire wants a timeout. He wants the ball in front of his bench.
Tied.
Can't get beat over the top.
And Duke calls a timeout. What a comeback for Wake Forest to pull even in this game, but now the Blue Devils will have a chance if they choose to take the last shot.
Jake LaRavia and Dallas Walton have been tremendous. Walton at the rim shooting 3s as well. LaRavia in a matchup with Bancaro really challenging, putting him in foul trouble. Both coaches have managed foul trouble tonight.
Now LaRavia, Debbie, with 19 points. Walton with 17, that's almost 10 above his average, averaging just under 8. John Shire drawing up the last few seconds, the strategy and the play. Mike Krzyzewski did not come out for the second half, was not feeling well. Now, Shire will take over as head coach next season, as we've mentioned several times tonight. Getting the feel of making the clutch call. Last time the game was tied, it was locked up at 13 with 10 minutes to go in the first half, and here we are at 74 with 17 and a half to go.
Reese, and also Alondis Williams, 7 minutes in the first half, 3 fouls, 3 points, 15 in the second half. He's been tremendous as well. It's been good balance by Steve Forbes' team, and they made enough tough plays, winning plays here at the end.
Saw the last win here was behind a big double-double from Tim Duncan, 26 and 14. Since that night, Wake Forest has lost its last 22 trips to Cameron Indoor. 17.5 full court pressure from the Demon Deacons. Banchero has it.
You got to attack the paint.
Banchero guarded by Hadim C. Under 6 seconds to go, still a long way from the basket. Banchero gets by Laravia. Banchero for the lead. And the foul! And they're waving it off! Mark Williams flushed it home, but they're waving it off for basket interference.
You can review that. Wow.
And that's what they'll do. 0.2 of a second, the crazy's waiting to erupt. Williams believes that he's given Duke the lead.
This is close.
Well, they've got it on the board. I thought I saw Doug Sermons wave it off.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
So close.
Maybe this is a better angle to tell. Is it off the rim outside the cylinder? I think that's a bucket. I think that's a bucket, Debbie.
I do too. What a take. That's what happens when you get beat off the bounce. You rotate over, and Williams has a clear path to the offensive glass.
The officials are looking at it, going to the monitor as they can, the closing moments. I think that's out of the cylinder, and the tip to himself. I think from the naked eye, what made it seem like potential basket interference was the second hand, but he had already tipped it to himself back up top. I saw it. They've got the bucket on the scoreboard. I saw an official waving it off immediately.
This goes back to that Kentucky LSU play a couple of years ago. That's why we have the rule in to be able to review this play inside 2 minutes.
And it can get a little tedious when officials constantly go to the monitor, but moments like that, they absolutely should. Williams. And they give him the bucket. And just as a footnote to what is almost certainly a game-winning basket for Big Mark Williams, his 6th double-double of the season with his 16th point and 10th rebound. But right now, all these crazies care about was it looks like it's the game winner. Point 2, so the only chance will be just for a tip.
Right, you got to throw it to the rim and tip it. So Laravia's got the best baseball pass. Banchero on the ball.
This is the 3rd game I've done in this building this season. Every one of them come down to a final possession. This has been a barn burner. Wake has fought valiantly, and Duke has shown tremendous resilience to answer all the charges and make the clutch plays without Coach K on the bench in the second half. Notice Chris Carrawell was smiling a lot more than John Shire was. Now they're putting 4/10 on the clock. Now they changed it to 0.2, 0.4. So now,
now you can't gather.
Right.
You've got to be really quick.
Yeah.
But at least that gives you a chance. 0.2 is really basically no chance.
Yeah.
I don't know if you change the play at all if you're Steve Forbes. And, you know, does John Shire put Mark Williams on the ball for more size?
Well, putting Mark Williams on the ball.
That was on an out-of-bounds play.
I know, out of bounds underneath.
I know where you're going.
Mark Williams in the lost to Virginia, was on the ball out of bounds.
But he might
rotate, but I'm not sure what it mattered.
He might be more valuable on this end down here because you're trying to keep it away from the bucket.
What would you do with him?
I think I would leave him near the bucket.
Let's take one more look at this.
And that's why John Shire's going to be the next head coach. He's putting him on the ball.
Well, Alondas Williams is doing everything he could to try to block out Mark Williams, and Mark is too big, too strong, 0.4 of a second away from being the hero.
Remember, Laravia can run the baseline, so he's going to start on the left side. He's a right-handed guy. He might run the baseline and throw it towards the rim.
But Mark Williams is dancing along with the crazies and then using that wingspan to try to take away vision from Laravia, who's just got to heave it anyway. He does run the baseline. He's going to take a three-quarter court shot from Monsanto. Oh, he almost hit it. Oh, my goodness, Damari Monsanto. From 70 feet, almost won it. Oh, my goodness.
What a second half.
Look at this. I mean, if that had just a little less velo on it, that thing goes in. Oh, man, what a finish. Duke escapes, and I mean escapes. 76-74. You know what, that big documentary on the ACC network about the ACC tournament, it's going to be just up through 2020. If these two play again, I'll sign up to see it in this year's ACC tournament. Brooke has John Shire.
Coach, you guys had one field goal the last 4 minutes. That put back by Mark Williams. How much resilience did your team have to have down the stretch?
Yeah, it wasn't pretty, that's for sure, but just the fight that this team has. You know, obviously, extenuating circumstances with Coach being out. We want to pick it up for him. We're really proud to be associated with these guys, and what a win.
What can you tell us about Coach K and how he's doing right now?
Yeah, I really don't know. I've been coaching the game. I'm sure he's doing fine, but obviously we're concerned about him first and foremost, and he'll be doing a lot better with the fact that it's a win.
How difficult was it to fight off this Wake Forest team? It seemed like they were never going away.
They're tough. They're explosive offensively. They're as big as any team in our league. They're skilled. They really space you, so it's hard to help. They're really good. And so to beat a team like Wake, and you know, for us, it's important to win on our home floor. So we're really proud to get this win and now start prepping for Florida State.
And how about the game of your big guy, Mark Williams, down the stretch?
Yeah, he made some big-time plays. I mean, big-time plays. And that tip-in, he's a difference maker for us. And we got to keep it going. We got to keep it going. But, you know, proud and happy that we could get this done.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Brooke.
So make it 8 out of 9 for the Blue Devils. This one in dramatic fashion. Our final score 76-74 for Brooke Weisbrod, the new Hall of Famer Debbie Antonelli, and our entire ESPN crew. I'm Reese Davis. Thanks for watching. Time now for Kentucky and Tennessee. 76-74 the final. Carl Ravitch, take it away, bud.